Greetings, Invader Scum. This is Pincognito, aka Pinko. I'm here with the first edition of a half hour or so in the life of a ringer. So yeah, Bloodborne. So just before we get into the details of this build and these invasions, I just wanted to give a little backstory to my kind of personal history with Bloodborne. I was late to the PS4. I don't think I had one until the system had been out for at least 6 months. And so I just didn't get into Bloodborne when it was first out. I want to say Bloodborne had been out for months before I got it. I don't really recall specifically, but it was at least a decently established game before I got involved. And I also just didn't really get involved in the PvP. It's partly because I had heard almost nothing but negative things about it, the netcode, the build system, etc. And I was a bit of a different player back then. I had done some invasions in DS2, but it wasn't kind of my thing the way it is now. And so I just never really gave it as much of a shot as I perhaps should have. So the Return to Yharnam event this past free month of Bloodborne on PS Plus has been just amazing for me. The game has been so busy and full of life. It's just been beautiful. Like a total Bloodborne renaissance, and I've been loving every second of it. I've built 4 new invaders. This build is actually retconned from an old PvE character I had, but I've done 4 additional invaders, still working on the 4th. In addition to this guy, I'm hoping to make a video for at least each one of them. But this character is a strength build. I think in these fights he was about blood level 59 or 60. And his kind of lore is that he is a hunter for the School of Mensis, a Yahar Ghul kidnapper. Thus, he's got the Yahar Ghul chest piece, the School of Mensis cage on his head. And the main weapons I use with him are the Amygdalan arm. The School of Mensis obviously had like a particular fascination with the Amygdala. And then also I have a saw cleaver as my backup because it's a nice complement to the Amygdalan arm. So we're invading here in Byrgenwerth. We've got the host and one of the NPC support phantoms, the Madaris twin. And the host has made the critical mistake of coming up these stairs to aggro my NPC assist. Ooh, Yuri. Yuri is better than Madaris, therefore this is a bad scene for the host. Rip Madaris. And so the Amygdalan arm has, if you're not familiar with it, you'll see it has a crazy moveset. I've got it in its tricked mode right now. It has these huge sweeping R1s, these massive plunging R2s that also have multiple hits as the arm retracts if you hold down R2. In the untricked form, it's more of a club or mace, kind of massive blunt blows, a sweeping a horizontal R2, and a Quakestone-like weapon art if you do the charged R2 followed up by R2, which is very cool. NPC's OP. GG, host. Alright, so this time we are in Yahar Ghul, very appropriate for this character, in the world of 9. Unfortunately for him, his co-op buddy died the second I entered the world. In Bloodborne, outside of the Nightmare Frontier and the School of Mensis, you will always be invaded. Well, or if a solo host has rung the Sinister Bell. The only times you won't be invading is if a host has phantoms. So it's even a bit more extreme than Dark Souls 3, where it prioritizes hosts with phantoms. Here, unless outside of 2 areas, unless the host has specifically invited it, you won't get any invasions except against groups. So that's a reality. But Bloodborne also has no weapon matchmaking, either for in-range hosts or host phantoms or for invaders. So to some degree, as an invader, you can account for the fact that you'll be fighting groups by getting a weapon arsenal that allows you to combat groups more easily. So this host has decided to flee. Now we could tell he was still in range and is still in range of the Amygdalan laser, so he couldn't have gone too far. And we see he's found a hidey hole. Now, I'm not sure what he was thinking here. I guess he had the camera turned the wrong way. I don't know. That was a little foolish. That was a lot foolish. But I missed my wake up, so we're off to the races. We could probably have a whole half-hour video talking about guns in Bloodborne. I'll try to give my nickel version here, which is they are very cool conceptually. In practice, I generally find them to be more irritating than cool. Although I do really enjoy the heal parry game, like in duels in particular. I think it adds like a nice layer of tension to duels, because someone who's good at heal parrying is a very dangerous opponent. And I do favor healing in duels, as in Dark Souls 3. I think this adds a layer of depth to the game. So here we have how people typically use guns, which is they just spam the absolute crap out of them. And so my usual go-to tactic is just to spam the transformation of the weapon without actually attacking. So so they just constantly spam their parry into a non-attack, which is what I'm doing here. And then every once in a while just throw out an attack where I can hopefully do a little damage until they've spent their 20 bullets. Here I switch weapons in the hopes that he'll keep spamming, and in fact he does. So there's parry spam in Dark Souls 3. It's more punishable than in Bloodborne. So in some senses I find the parry spam even more irritating here in Bloodborne. And it's partly just because it's just like, man, God bless, this is a game with like weapons that have R1s, R2s, L1s, sometimes L2s, and all that happens is people just spam their hunter pistol or blunderbuss, or they're carrying Ludwigs and they just spam R1 with a straight sword, or they have the hunter's axe and just spam charged R2s. I mean, I'm not saying I'm like fantastic at this game or always make the most of my movesets, but it's just I find this kind of combat to be a little disheartening at times when you've got so much depth to the movesets and people just spam this kind of stuff. Anyway, rant's over. So my favorite way to finally beat people that spam their guns is the heal parry. GG, host. Little bad manners at the end. We return to Yahar Ghul. Jellikyr. We'll stick with Jellikyr. So this is usually a very nice place for invaders because there's a threesome of Yarho Ghulians that are a fantastic gang to invade with. Unfortunately for me, they've been getting worked over by this duo, so I've only got the rifle spear dude left. So the host and his phantom retreat to this little platform. This platform has horrendous frame rates for invaders. Like, easily one of the worst places in the game I have found so far. The frame rates just absolutely shit the bed up there. So I generally try to remove myself from that little platform as soon as possible. It's just death. So here we have a very typical weapon to find in invasions, Hunter's Axe. My God, people love this weapon. It's not one I've ever really enjoyed personally. Nothing against you if you like it. But easily the two weapons you see the most in invasions are Hunter's Axe and Ludwig's Holy Blade, by a mile. And it's not hard to see why. They do good damage. I think it's pretty much that simple. So anyway, we got the host has sat down to, it looks like, give us an honor duel. I am always incredibly suspicious of this situation. 99 times out of 100, as soon as the phantom gets close to death, the host springs up, to do a charged R2 to your back, or some other way to keep their phantom alive. So we've got a little latency with this guy, which is always scary with the charged R2s on the Hunter's Axe. I have tried to work on parrying that charged R2. I find it has a surprisingly narrow parry window for an attack with such a long windup. So I don't often go for it during invasions. I find it a little safer just to try to space it, which with Bloodborne's netcode can be dicey as well. So you see, I typically use Amidala and Arm in tricked mode. Just those sweeping R1s are just so useful. I do have a tendency probably to over-rely on them. GG, Phantom. So now the host is ready to, I'm sure, fight me one-on-one. Had this nice honor duel. I'm fully anticipating just a nice little fight here. But we're getting just waves. We will not be having an honor duel. In retrospect, I really have no idea what was going on here. I don't know if he just had total confidence in his password summon Phantom, but now we're just getting bad manners and running away. So we'll fast forward through all the running away, because there's a lot of it. Amidala and Arm, not a fantastic chase down weapon. Running R2s have pretty big sweep, but they come out pretty slow. Here you can see me tiring. We'll unspeed it for the bad manners. So I switch to the Saw. The Saw Cleaver comes out faster. Also not a top tier chase down weapon. I think at this point, the two weapons that I think are without question, from the weapons I have used a decent amount, the two weapons that are the best for chase downs are the Safe, which is #1 by a mile, and the Tonitrus, which Saint Riot told many of us about and experimented with, and that's also a great chase down weapon. Here I gave up on the chase. I just, I can't be bothered. But his bad manners are getting the best of me. And so I return to the chase. So it looks like he might want to fight now. Here he throws out an R1, another R1, 3 R1s. It's a goddamn miracle. A lot of R1s. I'm still having a hard time. He's committed to his dodging game. Finally catch him with an R2. Really should have gone for the heal parry then. A lot of these invasions with this character are pretty early in the Return to Yharnam event. This is probably like early March invasions here. And so my heal parry game was not, it's gotten a bit better now. I've been watching a lot of Ghost Hardware, who I assume a lot of you know. I will put a link to his YouTube channel and to his Twitch page in the notes for this video. But you should definitely check him out. He's a fantastic streamer. He's been making some Bloodborne videos lately, and he's a lot of fun to watch. I highly recommend him. So the host is running away again. But even Bloodborne is that sweet, sweet verticality. GG, I guess. So this time we're in Cainhurst, which is a really fun place to invade. Really fun layout. Decent mob support at times. Although a group of 3 can tear through a lot of it pretty quickly. Here we get a little surprise as we peek out the broken window. Got someone hanging out on the ledge. Take a little peek. And I thought the Amidala arm was just knocking him right off, but I could not get the angle right. Can see him. But I'm just I think I'm hitting a little too far to the right. That one I thought I had him for sure, but with that jump attack. But I think the host figures out this is a bad place to hang out. He comes back inside, so we're off to the races. So just a fair warning. Nice little parry from the host there. Some decent damage from the riposte. Blunderbuss, of course. Every invader's worst nightmare. Because of the stun and the spamming. So we can hear in the background as I'm fighting the host that some of the the ladies of Cainhurst are being attacked and killed, which means there's at least another phantom here. I don't know if he just went ahead of the host to try to clear out some of the level, or if he backtracked to try to find me when they got notice that I was invading, and then the host just hid on the window ledge. Regardless, it took a little while for the host to arrive. So I'm being a little careful against the host since he already did the parry once. And oh my man, right there was the time for heal parry. I think now I would have been much more attuned to going for the heal parry in that moment. But instead I let him heal. And so what could have been a 1-minute invasion turned into like a 15-minute invasion. I get a cannon shot that did no damage from behind. I don't know if that's like an unupgraded cannon. I'm not sure what happened there. But yeah, this was a long, hard-fought invasion, and I've sped up certain sections, as you can see. I've cut a little bit where I thought it was appropriate, but you'll still get the full flavor of just how long and for me intense this invasion was. I think you can see in this invasion, like I said, these are from early in the return to Yharnam. Here I try to sneak up on the host, but the Phantom's waiting for me. But you can see one of the issues I'm dealing with this invasion is how to handle blunderbuss spam, or blunderbuss parries in general. This guy wasn't that spammy for the most part, this host, but he used it well. Anytime I got in close where I could attack either him or his Phantom, he would be at the ready, which makes it very hard, you know. As the invader, you do have to attack. And obviously, the goal is to win the fight. And right there, you know, I tried to pick up my spot, try to get a dashing attack, and he anticipated that. I paid the price for it. So it's hard to both get in on the Ludwig Holy Blade to get an attacks in and avoid the blunderbuss spam at the same time. And so you'll see a lot of my time in this video. And here I basically retreat to collect my thoughts. Try to see if I can drag them up to maybe the rooftop where I've got gargoyle support, or drag them further into the level. But they're not really having it. So just in terms of Phantoms in Bloodborne, you can see this one has no badge next to his name, so he is not password summoned. In my experience so far, the non-password summon can be very dangerous. The summon ranges in Bloodborne are monstrous. And so this dude could be dozens and dozens of blood levels higher than me, the Phantom. And there's no weapon scaling. So he could also have fully kitted out weapons, potentially. Password summon Phantoms can also be a nightmare. From talking to more experienced players, I think the general sense is that elemental damage does not scale properly. Physical damage might, but you have to be very careful of password summons with elemental damage. But a non-password summon Phantom doesn't have to deal with any scaling whatsoever. And so if they are within the host range and have, a gem nuked weapon, then watch out, because they are going to do a crap ton of damage. And so like a lot of invaders, my recourse to dealing with this scaling or system or lack thereof in Bloodborne has been to carry kind of a variety of weapon upgrades. So on this character, I've got plus 10 Amidala arm, I think a plus 6 or so. My saw cleaver is a plus 8. I've got a plus 7 beast cutter. I probably got some other weapons in the mix. But I try to carry weapons that allow for fun fights where I can be competitive without melting the faces off of my opponent necessarily. It's not always an easy balance to find. I think it's actually very difficult. Like at blood level 43, which is kind of the lowest blood level in which you would build an invader, because in Bloodborne, absent the ringing of a sinister bell, a host cannot be invaded until they are blood level 30. The highest an invader can be to invade a blood level 30 is a blood level 43. But I find at that level it's very hard to get the gem balance right. And so I've enjoyed more kind of the mid-50s to upper 50s invasion range so far. Anyway, you can see they're getting a little more spammy with the blunderbuss. Maybe getting a little impatient with me. There I go for big charge there too. I end up in R1 stunlock hell. Lucky for me, they're not doing that much damage. Otherwise, that would have been the end of everything. But I managed to escape. Nearly get the Phantom there. But I'm still just trying to pick my spots carefully. As carefully as I can, anyway. I remember distinctly that I was just kind of very concerned about getting caught by that blunderbuss spam again. Speaking of. And like I said, the host is not being spammy all the time. There are a few times here where he was. Here I almost get R1 to death again. Now we're in a bit of trouble. They're getting a bit more aggressive too as the fight goes on. I think I mentioned this previously already, but it's so much harder to punish that kind of those parries. Like, you know, in Dark Souls 3, you've got the ability to kind of, you know, pivot to backstabs or to otherwise kind of manipulate the parries in ways that you don't in Bloodborne. In Bloodborne, you kind of have to endure gun spam, or just, you know. Be careful as hell not to attack into it. Those are kind of your options to some degree. There, I'm unable to chase down the host again. Looking back at this fight, there's a few spots that were really missed opportunities that I could have taken more advantage of. Yeah, they try to do a kind of like a pincer movement on me. But I'm able to get to the Phantom before the host is close enough to really participate. So now they break out the Numbing Mist, which is a good idea. The first one missed. I roll directly into the path of the second one. Try to get a little cute with my rope Molotov cocktails, which do a little damage, but that one gets me into a little trouble. So I'm just trying to buy some time until the Numbing Mist wears off. Because if I get caught by a blunderbuss parry now, it's going to be bad. But nice running attack and bad scene. And I get hit by another Numbing Mist. So now... Now I absolutely must find some PvE support. At this point I wasn't sure what the Phantom had cleared out. We could hear him earlier attacking some of the Cainhurst ladies, but thank God Almighty, the crew is here. This was a beautiful sight for me. And so I'm just trying to run like a headless chicken until I can heal again. And I've got plenty of interference just from the environment and from the Cainhurst ladies here. And blessed be, blessed be, we can use a blood vial. And it's on now. It is on now. Now I've got ridiculous support. Phantom down. Host down. God damn. Fun invasion. It was a beautiful, long as hell, but a fun invasion. Alright, so we're going to end on a kind of a slightly different note than usual, which is with basically a duel. So I stream, as many of you know, I think, and so I get a lot of a decent number of stream snipers, most of whom are pretty friendly folk. So, so this is Heretical Tyrant, who has been he's been watching, I think, my streams since very, very early on, and I fought him a few times in Dark Souls 3 and a few times in Bloodborne so far, and he's always a fun fight. And so this is just a fun duel we had at Cainhurst. So he's got a nice kind of powder keg-like setup. He's got his state driver and a cannon. And I take a cannon to the face. Nicely done. And so I decide to experiment with the lead elixir to see how it works against the cannon. Cannon plus Bone Marrow Ash? The answer is not well. Do not recommend. 0 out of 10. Lesson learned. This is the time to learn those lessons, though. Yeah, so I don't think I've talked much about dueling on my Dark Souls 3 videos. I used to duel in Dark Souls 3 a fair amount, at least for a few months. I participated in the GameFAQs ladder, which I'm not even sure is still around anymore. I was never great. I was decent. I don't find dueling in Dark Souls 3 to be that fun personally. I don't hold it against people that do. I do enjoy dueling in Bloodborne. I just find it so much more dynamic, and kind of the moveset possibilities much more interesting, personally. And so I am always up for some stream snipe invasions in Bloodborne. Particularly, when you've got like comparable weapon matchups in terms of damage output. That's always helpful. So I've had so many fun fights in Bloodborne since with this event. And so I think at the end of each of the videos I put out, I'm going to try to feature one of the fights I had with someone in stream. I've probably had like at least a dozen so far that have just been a blast. Getting a little ravioli there. Raviolis are a pretty nice little tech in Bloodborne. Not too difficult to pull off. Although it's interesting, there we see the Quakestone Hammer kind of weapon art, or charged R2 from the Amygdalin arm that is a lot like the Quakestone Hammer weapon art. Tyrant's doing really well in this matchup because his State Driver has very little range compared to the Amygdalin arm. Although obviously if he gets inside my range, he can attack much faster, so that's kind of a game of spacing and distance management for me and him. Those hitboxes. The pistol is very hard to parry with at close range. I think if he'd had the blunderbuss in that last exchange, he would have gotten me. Brutal R2 there. And he's got me on the run. I'm under a lot of pressure. Constantly backing up the hill. Nice little ravioli there. I thought he might catch me with that Jar Jar 2 in the moment, as I recall. And now I'm in trouble. GG, Tyrant. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hopefully I'll put out another one of these pretty soon. Thanks for watching.